All right, here we are, another episode. Feels like I haven't done one in a while, but it's only actually been a day, which is weird. Had to get some new ink there. That's, yeah, and really didn't have time because I had a lot to do. But we're back. Here we are. We are in the Timothy Dalton era. There's only 2 episodes in this era, so it's gonna be a short one. And we're gonna start it right now with The Living Daylights from 1987. Ooh, the 80s. All right, 2 hours and 11 minutes of 80s action. This is directed by John Glenn in his 4th outing. He's only got one more after this. Timothy Dalton's first Bond. He was 41 when he did this. When he was first asked, he was 23 or something like that. He was like like 25 when he was first asked, and he kept turning it down because he was too young. He's like, I'm just too young for this, man. I can't do this. Our Bond girls, we got Cara and Linda. Timothy Dalton's not exactly a ladies' man, so it's not a lot of ladies here. We have Kozlov as the bad guy and Brad Whitaker, which is awesome. We also have another bad guy there. I did not get the actor's name, unfortunately, but it happens. The sweet Aston Martin is in this one. And we have The Living Daylights as the theme song. Before we start, though, little fun fact. There's not a whole lot of fun facts with this one. Most of the facts were mainly about Timothy Dalton and all the people that were supposed to play Bond. Like, even though Timothy Dalton was asked a bunch of times, Timothy Dalton didn't exactly want to play Bond. He just thought it was the whole series was going in a weird direction. He's like, I don't want to be a part of a series that's so corny. And then, but they actually, when Roger Moore stepped out, it was like, oh, okay, well, we'll make it more serious because with each Bond, they try to make a different Bond, you know? And so they were like, we're going to make it a little different for you. And this is what happened. I mean, it's what it is. But the original idea for this movie, The Living Daylights, was actually supposed to be a prequel to all this. That's why they wanted him to be a young Bond. And it was actually going to end with them giving him the Dr. No assignment. And I think that's kind of cool. It would have been a good little kind of callback to the original. And they actually wanted to start this over. They wanted to start Bond over and be, a new Bond, which they didn't do again until Casino Royale. Like, even the Pierce Brosnan Bonds, they're not really a reboot. They're just sequels. But the Daniel Craig Bond, starting with Casino Royale, that was a whole new redo. That's why Moneypenny is played by a different person. M is not played by a different person, but M is still there. And this is a whole new reboot. So, all right. But we started up. And an opening that I was like, it's not going to be in my top 5, but it was an opening. We have several agents training. They're training for something. We got paintball and everything like that. And the 2 that they're really focused on, one of them looks a lot like, they both kind of look like Roger Moore and Sean Connery. A little bit of a resemblance, and that was on purpose. They wanted to, because these 2 agents are killed. Someone's killing these agents. And they wanted to basically say the Roger Moore and Sean Connery era are dead. Timothy Dalton's here. And we get a stolen Jeep. We're driving down. Bond is, we don't know it's Bond yet. We just see this guy fighting, get in there. The Jeep goes off a cliff. He opens up his parachute, lands on a boat where we see Linda. She's not that important at all. She's just sexual fodder. So, but, and I was like, who are you? I'm Bond, James Bond. Except the way he says it is not cool. Like, when Roger Moore did it or Sean Connery did it, was Bond, James Bond. Had a little pause. When Timothy Dalton did it, it was his Bond, James Bond. You're like, And that will start off the title sequence, which is the most 80s thing in the world. We have like aviator glasses and women dancing in the reflections, and it's very 80s, very cool. We have The Living Daylights by Aha playing in the background. If you don't know who Aha is, yeah, Take on Me. They did Take on Me. I can't do the high note, so I'm not even going to attempt it. But we do have the Take on Me, and this is like where I can go ahead and say that so far, Roger Moore is the worst Bond for me, but or not Roger Moore, but George Lazenby is the worst Bond for me, and only because he's a horrible actor. Like he wasn't a great actor. But if he would have been able to act, he actually would have been above Roger Moore for me because Roger Moore was just too corny. But you got George Lazenby, Roger Moore, but below George Lazenby, Timothy Dalton. Timothy Dalton. George Lazenby's here. Timothy Dalton's here, because Timothy Dalton, you look for certain things with Bond, and Timothy Dalton is missing a lot of it. He's not particularly charming, and he's not particularly charismatic. He can act, and he's a believable. He's a believable spy. It's just he's not Bond. So, and the Bond James Bond thing kind of did it. It was like, I wasn't very fond of it, and so he wasn't actually the first choice because he had been turning them down so much. Now, the first choices were Christopher Reeves. Christopher Reeves. Superman himself was actually, they wanted him to be Bond. They offered him the role, but he turned it down. He was like, nah, I'm good. I won't do that. Christopher Reeves. I think he would have been a pretty cool Bond. He has the charm and he has the charisma. He definitely has the charm. After that, there was a man who actually auditioned. One of my favorite actors. That's Sam Neill. That right there. Grant. Grant from Jurassic Park. He's also in Event Horizon. Oh my God, dude. He's in so many good movies. Mouth of Madness. Sam Neill could have been our Bond. That would have been so neat. And then, we have Sean Bean. And one does not simply ask Sean Bean to be Bond. But he was going to be our Bond. The dude from Lord of the Rings. He's Ned Stark from Game of Thrones. He would later be in a Bond film, so that's all right. And then there was another one they asked, which is, I can't see it. Exactly. I've told some people about it. So they're like, no, I could see that. This I can't see. Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson could have been Bond, and that's just nah. And all these people kind of either declined or Sam Neill. Everybody loved Sam Neill except for Albert Broccoli, and he's a producer of the film, so he's like, yeah, I'm not sold on Sam Neill. I think Sam Neill would have been a great one, but so what happened was there was Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan. He was actually asked to be in Bond a few Bonds ago, but he was doing his show called Remington Steele. Remington Steele, he signed a contract to be in Remington Steele for 6 years. And after 3, they canceled the show. So he was free. And they were like, hey, you want to be Bond? And he's like, yeah, I'll be Bond. So he was ready. He was signed on to be Bond. He was signed on to be Bond when Miriam Diabo was signed on to be Kara. So he was going to be Bond. He tested with Miriam Diabo. The problem was they decided, maybe we're not going to cancel Remington Steele. And because he was already contractually obligated to be in Remington Steele, he had to go do that. So he couldn't be Bond anymore. But because of the gap that it caused, because they were supposed to sign, but because of the issues with Remington Steele, it pushed it back a little bit, which opened the gate for Timothy Dalton. We get our Timothy Dalton. And Timothy Dalton is now our Bond. So that's the whole thing, the whole story of what happened with Bond this time. But anyway, we go on, we go further into this, and I'm going to go ahead and get to the meat and potatoes because there's a lot of let's meet Bond stuff, and it's like, I already know who Bond is. I've been watching these movies for 2 weeks now. So we meet Kara, who is a sniper. She's going to take out like a diplomat or something. You're like, what? And Bond sees her, and he's got his sniper rifle trained on her, and he's like, all right, you got to take out the sniper, but he can't because he's like, there's something wrong, and instead he shoots her gun, and she doesn't get the shot off. So, but he's supposed to kill this person, and they actually kind of get on to him about not killing her. But after that, like we're breaking into something. There's this weird big Russian spy. She's a female and she's a big girl, and she's like doing this weird striptease to distract this guy, and she's like putting his face like motorboat in her boobs and everything, and it's like really weird. And then Bond like sneaks out and everything's fine, and she gets up and says, "What kind of girl do you think I am?" and zips up and walks off, and it's like, that was weird. It kind of threw me off a bit. This whole movie kind of threw me off a bit, really. But we find out later, like he's talking about like, you didn't kill the sniper. He's like, I didn't kill the sniper because she was an amateur. She didn't know what she was doing. If I would have killed her, I would have probably killed an innocent person. So he didn't kill her, and we actually meet Moneypenny, who is played by Carolyn Bliss this time. And I don't remember liking this Moneypenny, and you guys know how big of a fan I am of Moneypenny. I don't remember liking this Moneypenny, but after watching this, I'm like, you know what? She plays a good Moneypenny. She's a very she's nervous. She's in love with Bond. She's always flirting with Bond. She has good charisma with Timothy Dalton. So why not? This actually works out. I like this. She's a good Bond. I mean, she's definitely not my Moneypenny, because that's Lois Maxwell, but she's a good Bond. I liked it. Then we meet Kozlov, and at first you don't know he's a bad guy. Kozlov is here, and he's friends with Bond. He's like, Bond, and he hugs him and everything. And you're like, okay, so he's friends with James Bond. All right, that works for me. But then there's this KGB agent, Necros, and it's he's interesting. It's not at all off-putting what he does. It's interesting. He has his headphones in and he's listening to his tape player, his little Walkman. He's like, and he'll take off the headphones and strangle someone with them. He's like, that's his weapon of choice, is a set of headphones. And he's a really good spy. He's strangling people, and then he suddenly changes into like a milkman outfit, and he's like throwing these milk jugs. He has these milk jugs. I'm like, oh, he's gonna throw milk jugs at people, and every time he throws them, it explodes. It's like, oh my god, he's got milk bombs. This is crazy. And he fights in. He's getting in there, and he steals Kozlov. They take Kozlov. They kidnap him, and I'm like, oh, so here's what the story's gonna be about. It's gonna be about them trying to get Kozlov back. If you haven't seen the movie, this is what you're thinking. I know Kozlov's a bad guy, so it doesn't matter. And we go back and we're looking at all his inventions. He gets this cool little bomb thing. He gets a new Aston Martin. The Aston Martin, and this one is a V8 Vantage Volage. Oh my god. Volante. I can't say that word. Volante. It's a 1985. Beautiful car. And the key fob to it is awesome. And he's like, hey, Bond, why don't you whistle the first 4 notes of this song? And he like whistles it, and it's a smoke bomb. And he's like, well, what do you do to make it explode? And he was like, oh, that's easy. You just wolf whistle. He's like, so all you gotta do is, and he's like, no. So he's got this like whistle thing. What it is, it's something that was invented in the 80s, where you whistle and it finds your car for you, or your car keys for you. So if you can't find your car keys, boom, there's your car keys. It's right there. And it actually whistles back at you. So they use that technology to do like, oh, if you whistle for this one, smoke bomb. And one of my favorite things with gadgets in James Bond is when they use real technology. And this was real technology at the time, so I love it. And it's awesome. But Kara, the cello sniper, she's taken. She gets taken too, so she gets kidnapped. And this is on a public bus, public bus. And Bond's on the bus too, because he's following her. And he sees a cello. He's like, I'm just gonna take that cello. And he takes it. He actually takes the cello. Sorry, my nose itches like crazy today. And he takes this cello, and he goes to this bathroom. And this part, I was like, okay. And he's in the bathroom, and he's opening up the case. He opens the cello, and he pulls out the sniper rifle. Has the hole where he shot it and everything. I'm like, all right. And he looks at it, and I'm like, okay, so she has the sniper rifle, and it's very like Desperado-esque. You have the Desperado when he opens up the case and all his guns are in there. It's like a beautiful moment. Robert Rodriguez, shout out. I love Robert Rodriguez. But he opens this up, and there's a thing where he goes into this case and he pulls out a card, and it has her name, her address, her phone number, has everything on it. So basically, it's like, hey, if you find this illegal gun that I used to try to kill a diplomat, return it to this person. I'm like, even if that was there in case she lost her cello, I would have taken out that card if I was going to leave a gun in there. A sniper rifle that's clearly illegal. It was one of those plot holes where I was like, I can't on this one. But he actually ends up saving Kara, and he takes her and he's like, come on, we gotta go, get in the car. But she will not leave without her actual cello. She's like, no, I can't leave without my cello, and I'm not leaving. There are guys behind us right now. We probably should not go back for your freaking cello. And she's like, no, I want the cello. And she goes back, she gets the cello, she gets it, whatever. And they has chase. And this is where this Aston Martin makes my list of best cars. Because I'm going, at the end on the retrospective episode, I'm going to be giving you my top 5 cars. My top 5 cars, my top 5 women, my top 5 Bond girls, top 5 villains, top 5 songs, top 5 openings, top 5 title sequences, top 5 gadgets. And then I'm going to rank the Bond movies and the Bonds. That they're going to get all of them, not just the top 5. So they has chase, and this car is decked. I had to write it down right here. The car has laser tires. They shoot lasers out of the tires, and he actually cuts the tires off another car, a police car. Very cool. It has missiles. So cool. The thing is bulletproof. The thing has rocket boosters, and the thing can ski. It grows skis, and it is so cool. Is it as cool as the Aston Martin from the first ones? Find out on the retrospective episode coming up in, what is this, 16? 10 episodes? Yeah. Stick with it, guys. You'll get the retrospective ranking the Bonds. So this thing can ski, it's got rocket boosters, and finally it's got a self-destruct system. They have to go off the road and he can't go anymore. He's like, screw it, boop, self-destruct. And they're like, yeah, boom. Awesome car, and it looks beautiful. I love it. So where do we go now? We're trapped in the snow. What are we gonna do? Give me your cello. They take the cello, open the case, and use it as a sled. They sled down on a cello case. Well, what about the cello that was inside the cello case? Well, he's holding it. He's like, I'm not gonna let anything happen to your cello. It's all good. And then someone gunshot, pow, shoots the cello and puts a hole in. He's like, oh, I'm sorry about that. And he's like, keeps going. And one of the funnier parts is they're still sledding down on this cello, and these guys are chasing him. They hit the border, and he's like, get your passport out. Wave your passport. Yeah, wave your passport. And they're going. He's like, all right, we're going under. He's like, nothing to declare, and ducks under the case, and ducks under the barrier, and they keep going. No one stops them. They're just like, I didn't see their passport, but they're on a cello sled, so yeah, that's pretty cool. We should let them go. That's pretty cool. No, I don't know, whatever. But after all that, we get to meet Brad, and well, Brad looks very familiar. Who is that? That's Joe Don Baker. Yeah, he played Buford Pusser in the Walking Tall sequels. He's been in a lot of movies, which is super cool. I like that. But yeah, he was Buford Pusser. And, well, he wasn't the original Buford Pusser. The original Buford Pusser looked just like Buford Pusser. Like, this Walking Tall was before The Rock played Chris Vaughn in Walking Tall. The original Walking Tall guy was Buford Pusser. Everyone just knows Chris Vaughn, though, because it's The Rock. And everyone loves The Rock. But yeah, and then we get Bond and Kara after all this, and I guess they date. They're dating or something. He's like taking her around, and Bond buys her a dress on like a corporate credit card, like a Russian credit card or something like that. I don't know. It was a very confusing moment in the whole thing. Because they go from getting chased on a cello case sled. This was a very weird one. But they're basically on a date, and we find out that Kozlov's still alive. Well, why is he still alive? What the heck's going on? That's because he's working with the bad guys. Kozlov's a bad guy. Oh no! I already knew that, but it's a big twist for people who haven't seen it. Come on now, you know, Kozlov. Yeah, that's pretty old Brad. But anyway, we go back to the date, and they're going like, they're at the fair, and he's like winning prizes for her, and like he's supposed to meet another agent at this fair, at the Ferris wheel at midnight, and he gets on the Ferris wheel with Kara, and he's like, we're gonna go up here, and the dude's there, and the Strangler's there, and this is a very convoluted moment, but the agent is killed, and this is where Timothy Dalton becomes his version of Bond. Because Timothy Dalton's version of Bond, you have Sean Connery's version of Bond, who is the smooth and just he's the charismatic Bond, the smooth Bond. You've got George Lazenby, who's the romantic Bond, and then you've got Roger Moore, who's the funny Bond, and then you have Timothy Dalton, who is the angry Bond. Okay. And this is where he becomes, he kills this agent. It's like 003 or something like that. And he's like out for revenge. He's like, oh, you're going to get it now. And he does. He actually goes and he becomes this revenge-fueled monster. He goes into, I'll tell you who he is here in a minute, but he goes into, his name is General Pushkin. But I'm going to tell you what he does because I want to get the negative out of the way first. So he goes into General Pushkin's room, and he's with his wife, girlfriend, something that's never clarified, but he's just like pointing guns at people and like, where is he? Where is he? I know you know where he is. Blah. And then he hears a knock at the door, and what does he do? He's like looking at the girl, and he takes her and he like rips her clothes off, and then goes and hides, and the guy pops in, and the girl is naked, and he's like, oh, sorry, I'll leave. And he leaves, and he comes back, and Bond just like throws clothes at. He's like, yeah, go get dressed. And it's like, whoa. This is like angry, mean Bond. I'm like, I mean, I like it, don't get me wrong, but it's just like, whoa, this is an all new Bond. So he could move above George Lazenby if this continues, and License to Kill, which I haven't seen, which is License to Kill is the one that has the longest gap of I haven't seen it in probably 15, 20 years. So this is the longest gap. So if it turns out to be better and a good Bond, he may jump above George Lazenby, because Angry Bond, I'm digging Angry Bond. But anyway, he's in General Pushkin. Who is General Pushkin? This is General Pushkin. And why am I so excited about General Pushkin? Why could I possibly be just so... Because that's John Rhys Davies. One of my favorite people. Like, I love John Rhys Davies. Now, why do I love John Rhys Davies? Why am I so excited of this man who some of you may not even know who the heck he is? I won't freaking tell you who he is. He was Saul in the Indiana Jones film. He was Saul in Raiders and The Last Crusade. Yeah, dude. Okay, but all right. So he was in Indiana Jones. So what? Well, let me tell you what else he is. He's the voice of Treebeard, Lord of the Rings, and that's not it. Treebeard is awesome. I love Treebeard. Treebeard was one of the best parts of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but one of the finest people in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, he's freaking Gimli. He's Gimli. Like, I adore Gimli. I love Lord of the Rings. I am such a Lord of the Rings stan. It's psychotic. I love the Lord of the Rings. So, yeah, I'm a little excited to see John Rhys Davies. Okay? And he's not like the guy who plays Brad Whitaker, Joe Don Baker, the walking tall guy. That dude comes back for 2 more Bond films as 2 different characters. So he plays, but John Rhys Davies, he only plays once. And I love this guy. But anyway, I digress. We got to get out of here and go back to where Bond is drugged and taken. He is drugged, drinks, Kara's there, he drugged, taken, and he actually falls asleep on a plane. We get some action on a plane. It's not really huge. We find out that they're stealing diamonds, and I'm like, man, this is a heist movie? They're stealing diamonds? That's not dangerous. What the heck's going on? You know, it's like, all right. But Bond escapes. Um, it's yeah. He. And it's he escapes and then they land in the desert. The reason why I'm kind of mad about it is because this is where the movie kind of just it goes off the rails to where I'm like, I mean, the movie's already kind of just slow paced but this is where it gets kind of crazy. In they go and he's picked up by the resistance, okay, and it's like an Afghan resistance. So he's picked up by the Afghan resistance, and you're like, oh, okay, so Bond's gonna help Afghan resistance, and like, but they turn out to be like drug smugglers, opium drug smugglers, and they're using it to buy guns to fight against these guys, the bad guys, and but they're selling guns to the bad guys to make money to buy guns for themselves. It's a really convoluted plot point, and really you don't even know what's going on. Like they never really explain really well what is going on, why the people are such a danger beyond the fact that they're killing 007 agents. It's like, okay, but they has war. It's the Afghan resistance versus the Russians. It's actually Smersh, which are the Death to Spies people. But it's like they're has war with them, and they're just they're all on horseback except for the Russians, and it's like yeehaw, and Bond the whole time is just I'm gonna get Kara and everybody, and Kozlov is chasing him, and there's a point where Kozlov should have died because he's driving his Jeep and they fly a plane into his Jeep. The Jeep explodes, and then the next scene is him setting in he's on the Jeep's on fire, and he's like setting in the driver's holding on to the steering wheel. Like, whoa, that was a close one. Like, nah, dude, you're dead. You died. I don't know who you are, but you're dead. He ends up exploding anyway, but it's like, I mean, he ends up dying anyway. Like, well, not dying, but he ends up getting his in the end. But he's like, he survives it somehow. I don't know how. And they take off on a plane. Him and Kara take off on a plane, but our headphone guy gets on there. What's his name? Necros. Necros gets on there, and they're like, he has fights with Necros, and they're hanging off the edge of or hanging out of the back of the plane while the plane's in like 10,000 feet in the air, and they're fighting, and he's holding on to Bond's shoe, and Bond cuts off his own boot, and the guy falls, falls dead. He stops the bomb. There's a bomb on the plane. He stops the bomb. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, it's so unimportant that I forget about it. And he cut his shoe off, and they say, "Oh, what happened to Necros? Ah, he got the boot." um, so they actually jump out of the plane when the plane flies into the mountain and everything, and they go to this weird museum where he meets Brad, and him and Brad have a gunfight, but Brad's got all these super modern weapons. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I got a shield and everything," and Bond's like, "Well, here's my smoke bomb." Who does the wolf call. "Oh, thanks, man." Boom, and he's gone. And then they actually catch Kozlov. Kozlov's, "Oh, thank God you're here." And they're like, "Yeah, you're a traitor. Bye." He gets arrested. So the whole thing ends with lovey-dovey action between Kara and Bond. It's like, okay, he saved the day. But the problem I had with it, he saved the day from what? Yeah, we realize they're a threat and stuff like that. Cool. They're like a defected army that is killing 007 agents. I get that, but we never establish their true threat, and that kind of got on my nerves. The whole thing moved at a snail's pace. It was just kind of, but it was. This is definitely lower tier Bond, and Timothy Dalton's not the greatest Bond anyway. But 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10. I'd put this still above Live and Let Die. Yeah, because it's Live and Let Die was just kind of meh to me still. I would probably put this. Yeah, I'd probably put this above A View to a Kill too. So this is bottom 3 so far. It's not great. It just kind of annoyed me really. But hopefully the next Timothy Dalton, let's hope that because let's hope Timothy Dalton does one good Bond film, because even George Lazenby, his one film was good, and Sean Connery had good films, and Roger Moore had good films. So hopefully this will kick it out. But his kill count was 13. His love count was 2. I'm doing 2, even though it really only did Cara. I'm going to count Linda, Kel Taylor. I'm going to count her, because when he's on the phone, he says, I'll be there in an hour. And then she's like, gives him champagne. He goes, make that 2. So I'm going to say he did the deed with her. 2. All right. Next up is the last Timothy Dalton. We have License to Kill. This is the first non-PG. Every single Bond before this was PG. All 15 of them. 16 if you count Never Say Never Again. So this is the first time we're getting a PG-13 Bond. So John Glenn's directing his final film. Timothy Dalton in his final film. We have Pam and Lupe as our girls. Franz Sanchez. It's all right. We got one car in here, and License to Kill by Gladys Knight. For Gladys Knight, of all people. So, hopefully you'll get that one. That's License to Kill from 1989. We should be good to go on that, though. But I guess we're back to the thank you for watchings. So, thank you for watching. See you for License to Kill.